So when you first open up the LR32 Sustainer, you look at the pile of parts and pieces, much like I did. You're probably like, what do I do with all this stuff? Well, I hope I can help you out a little bit and show you. I don't know if the names that I'm using are proper or not, but that's what I'm going to choose to call them for this video, and feel free to correct me if you want to. So anyways, we're going to flip the camera around for another second, and we'll go through through some of the steps. So first of all, you got to attach your base to the router. And with the 1400, this is done by actually removing the nuts and spacers that come on it for the smaller router. And you attach the base using the screws provided in the box. Also, to make sure that your router is properly positioned, you need to use this guide, if you will, that actually centers the router to the base. And this is done by installing this guide into the collet, right where I've actually got my flat drill bit actually installed. Once you center the base, you need to also set up your stops, or your positioners. Because from the factory, these are definitely not calibrated to your system. So the best way to do that is, if you notice, you've got a little relief right here in the router base. That's going to be for establishing 0. So we're going to take your router and base and set it on the track. It's going to want to rock a little bit, so we're supported by the wood underneath the cabinet side. And you take your stop and you position it on the track, set it at 0. And what you want is that small groove to line up. Of course, it's not going to when I'm trying to show you, because I've got the vacuum plate in here. But take this, loosen it up a little bit, and slide it in, and it fits. Now that that's set up, you can now adjust your dial for your offset, for how far off the edge of your workpiece you want your holes to fall out. I chose 37 millimeters, which is close to 1.5 inches. I also opted for the 16 millimeter offset by using the end spacers. And this is done by inserting a provided spacer that has settings for 16 millimeter, 9.5 millimeter, and 32 millimeter. So now that I attach the other spacer on the other end, this will actually allow me to index the track on both sides in relation to the bottom of my workpiece when I'm preparing for drilling all the holes. So next we'll talk about the clamps. In this particular instance, I actually secured one end of the workpiece to my table. Get that set up real quick. Okay. So once you set up your end stops for your spacing, and you have your setup guides here, Most videos will actually show you removing these prior to plunging your holes. But today I had to do 14 of these, so I found a little trick that helped me actually set up better for a little bit more mass production. So what I did was, on this far end over here, I attached not only the track to the workpiece, but to my table, securing the workpiece and track system all in one. Based on the configuration of my workbench, I was unable to actually clamp the other end to my bench and workpiece. So I just connected the track to my workpiece just to ensure that my track would not move while I was installing my holes. So now, what I would do, and what I did in this instance, is I actually positioned my positioning guides to the ends of the workpiece when I was first laying it out. Also, I took a label maker, and rather than writing all over my track and trying to figure out what hole is going to go where and did I go too far or start too early, I put a notation for the bottom start, the top stop for a 42-inch cabinet, top stop going the other direction, the bottom start going in the opposite direction. And what I did was, in relation to the bottom of the cabinet, which I had already dadoed the bottom, put my back dado for the 1/4-inch ply that's going to go on the back side, as well as the top dado for the top piece. So what that allows me to do while I'm plunging or operating the router, I can actually look through the viewing window of the router and the track and see where my start is. And for me, just naturally, I like working from right to left. So what will happen is, if you notice, I'm at the top right now in relation to the direction that you could read, and that was where I would start coming from this side. Also, there's a rocker switch and a handle. So what I did, let's see if I can get a good video of this. I held the handle with my left hand, started the machine. There's also a locking switch that allows you to lock the trigger on, and I would turn the machine on, plunge, push down the lever, locks to your next level, plunge again, and repeat. So once I've made my way down the full workpiece, doing the full course of the amount of holes that I wanted to, I would then remove the clamps and spin the workpiece around, leaving those setup guides in place. So now I've actually spun my workpiece around, and I've left my track system in the same configuration that it was. So you'll notice it's overhanging on one end, and now my stops are all hanging off the workpiece. But that's fine, because it still allows me one workpiece or one stop that I don't have to move. So it's just one less thing. I don't have to go back and forth and remove each and every time and then put them back on. Now, the only thing I had to be careful for when I was doing this is my dado. If I was to actually install this piece further down, my pin would actually go into the dado. So I just had to watch out for that. So once again, make sure that my piece is good secure. I'm against all the positive stops that are on this jig, which it's not. Now it is.